we're out on our range today and we're talking about caliber 9x18. A lot of viewers have contacted me asking for a review of this caliber, and finally one of the crew was able to get a gun that shoots this caliber, so here we are. But it comes with a few caveats. First, please remember that we're evaluating caliber 9x18, not any particular type of firearm. Two, in evaluating this caliber, I could do some chronographing, I could shoot some ballistic gel, and we could look at the results, but it wouldn't really mean anything without some basis of comparison. So today what we're going to do is side by side shoot 9x17, 9x18, and 9x19 and compare the results, which leads me to point 3. In doing ammo comparisons, I try the best I can to make them fair and realistic. Fair and realistic are not necessarily the same thing. If I wanted to be absolutely fair, we'd have our 3 calibers and we'd have 3 firearms that are the exact same make and model with the exact same barrel length, and then our ammunitions in those 3 calibers would be from the same manufacturer in the same configuration with the same projectile weights. That would be fair. But realistically, 9x19 is going to have a significantly different projectile weight than 9x18 or 9x17. So fair and realistic aren't always the same thing. And the problem we're going to have today is that with the difficulty we've had obtaining a firearm to shoot 9x18 and the great difficulty I've had obtaining 9x18 ammunition, our presentation is not going to be as fair as I'd really like it to be. Now, we did have a viewer that sent me 2 different types of 9x18 ammunition. That is very helpful, thank you. But still, today's presentation will not be perfect. But we'll take from it what we can. So that having been said, let's get started, and we'll start with a close-up of what 9x18 ammo looks like. Let's take a look.
From your left to right is 9x17, 9x18, 9x19. And those numbers, 17, 18, 19, refer to the length of the shell casing measured in millimeters.
In talking about these 3 calibers, there is a subject that will inexorably be brought up. And it will go something like this. 38 Special and 357 Magnum are the same diameter, but the 38 shell casing is shorter. So you can put 38 Special ammunition into the longer cylinder of a 357 Magnum revolver, but you can't put 357 Magnum ammunition into the shorter cylinder of a 38 Special. That makes them one-way interchangeable. So, when talking about 9x17, 9x18, 9x19, if the only difference is the length of the shell casing, are these 3 cartridges one-way interchangeable? The answer to that requires a lengthy, tedious discussion. And if you want the lengthy, tedious version, you can watch our lengthy, tedious 2-part series on the Ruger LCR. But today, for the short version of the answer to that, it can best be illustrated with a demonstration done with the Ruger LCR. Let's take a close-up look.
This is my Ruger LCR. It's a snub-nosed double-action revolver with a swing-out 5-shot cylinder chambered in caliber 9x19. And it is intended to be loaded with your ammunition held in this metal clip called a moon clip. And they drop all right in there, you shoot 5 and then push all 5 out at once. Here's what your moon clip looks like without any cartridges in it. Now the thing is, if I take a 9x19 cartridge and put it in the cylinder, it goes in just fine and it'll shoot just fine, but because the 9x19 has a recessed rim, the ejector won't push it out. You actually have to dump it out. So if you want to eject all of them, you need the moon clip. Okay, so how will this work if I load it with a 9x17? It falls in there too far. You can see that it's in more deeply than the 9x19, far enough that the firing pin won't hit it. Now, is that because it's shorter, so it went in there farther? No, it's because it's smaller in diameter. If I take this 9x19 round and load it into the moon clip, you can hear it click in place, and it's held pretty securely. If I do that with the 9x17, the 380, it'll go into the moon clip, but it's not held securely. That'll fall right out because it's a smaller diameter than the 9x19. So what about the 9x18? Well, it has a more recessed rim, so if I try to put it in the moon clip, it also falls right out. But how does it compare in terms of diameter with the other cartridges? Well, Even though the rim is smaller, if I try to put the 9x18 in the cylinder made for the 9x19, it won't go in because this cartridge is larger in diameter than the 9x19.
Okay, so they're all 9mm, but they're all 3 different diameters? How could that be? Again, for the tedious, lengthy explanation, you can watch our 2-part series on the Ruger LCR. But the very short version goes like this. Just because something is called a certain thing does not mean that it really is that thing. Such as our one-way interchangeability with 357 Magnum and 38 Special. If one is a .357 and the other's a .380, how could they be the same diameter? Because 38s aren't really 38. 38s really have a projectile diameter of .357. Also, on our various 9mm cartridges, that measurement wasn't necessarily taken in the same place or the same way. But the real bottom line here is the question, are 9x17, 9x18, 9x19 interchangeable? And the answer is no. Now, I'm sure I'll be contacted by someone who will tell me about how his stepdad's brother had a nephew whose cousin had an uncle who told him that he knew a guy who knew a guy that had one that was interchangeable. And you know, there really aren't many absolutes in the gun world. There might be a gun somewhere that can shoot the multiple calibers, but really, they are not interchangeable. So, if they're not interchangeable, how do the 3 compare for power? Let's go to the chronograph. I've got the chronograph set up at 7 yards, and of course remember that we leave the chronograph segment in the final presentation because so many people have asked me to. But if you find the chronograph segment tedious, I invite you to fast forward to the part where you see me standing next to the chart with all the numbers on it. Okay, for those who are still here, as a basis of comparison, we're going to start with 9x17, which here in the United States is most commonly known as 380 ACP. My test gun will be a Baby Rock caliber 380 ACP with a 3.5-inch barrel. And the first ammunition I'm going to use is Remington Green and White Box 380 ACP 95 grain full metal jacket. .956, 928, 917, 976, 965, and 945. Let's try another type of ammo. And now Winchester White Box 380 ACP 95 grain full metal jacket. .903, 934, and a malfunction. .939, 925, 952, and 937. Let's try one more type of 380 ammo. Now we have Hornady Critical Defense 380 ACP 90 grain FTX projectile, like a ballistic tip. .933, 978, 952, 951, 940, and 975. Let's try a different caliber. Now we'll shoot some 9x19 ammunition. The test gun I have is the Smith & Wesson M&P Compact, which also has a 3.5-inch barrel. And we'll start with Remington Green and White Box 9x19 115 grain full metal jacket. 1047, 1074, 1050, 1055, 1058, and 1,070. Let's try another type of 9x19. Now we have Winchester White Box 9x19, 115 grain full metal jacket. 1123. 1127. 1114. 1093. 1113. And 1122. Let's try one more type of 9x19 ammo. And now Hornady Critical Defense 9x19 115 grain FTX projectile, like a ballistic tip. 1105. 1077. 1100. 1097. 1088. And 1086. Now, let's try some 9x18 ammo. And now for 9x18. For a test gun, I've got this Makarov pistol, which has a 3 5/8 inch barrel. Our other two pistols had 3.5. This has a barrel that's an 1/8 inch longer. I think we can live with that difference. But for ammunition, I have this Norinco 9x18 95 grain full metal jacket. 980. 969. 1003. 994. 971. And 956. Let's try another type of ammo. And now Fiocchi 9x18 95 grain full metal jacket. 1032. 1015. 1029. 1058. 1005. And 1021. Let's try another type of ammo. And now we have PPU 9x18 95 grain jacketed hollow point. 956. 959. 931. 888. 996. And 999. Now let's try one more type of ammo. And now we have Hornady Critical Defense 9x18 96 grain FTX projectile, like a ballistic tip. 880. 896. 895. 896. 926. And 903. Now, let's go crunch the numbers.
Well, I crunched the numbers, and here they are. And of course, this comes with the normal caveats that chronographs don't always agree with each other, and certain environmental factors like ambient temperature and elevation can affect chronograph results. This also comes with the additional caveat that because we use Norinco and PPU ammunition compared to our Winchester White Box and our Remington Green and White Box, it's a good comparison, but not perfect. And the numbers we got were, with our Winchester White Box, with our 380 ACP, we got a mean velocity of 931 feet per second. With our 9x19, 1,115 feet per second. That's 184 feet per second more. That's a lot more. And remember, our 9x19 has a 115 grain bullet, our 380 has a 95 grain bullet. So it not only gives us 184 feet per second more, it achieves that with a bullet that's 20 grains heavier. 9x19 is a lot more powerful than 380. Now, when we compare that to our Norinco 9x18 ammunition, we see a mean velocity of 979. That's 48 feet per second more than 380 ACP. Okay, I'm going to say that's significantly more. And they both have 95 grain projectiles. But what our top line really shows us is that our 9x19 is still 136 feet per second greater than our 9x18. That's a lot more. And achieves it with a bullet that's 20 grains heavier. It's a lot more powerful than 9x18. And 9x18 ballistics are a whole lot closer to 9x17 or 380 ACP than they are 9x19. Now, if we look at with our Remington green and white box ammunition, we see the numbers are different, but they really tell the same story. With our 380 ACP, we got a mean velocity of 947 feet per second. With our 9x19, we get 1,059. That's 112 feet per second more. And it achieves that greater velocity with a bullet that's 20 grains heavier. 9x19 is a whole lot more powerful than 380 ACP. Now, when we look at our 9x18 ammunition, we see a mean velocity of 954 feet per second. That's 7 feet per second more than our 380 ACP, within the variation of one round to the next, not enough difference to make a difference, and they both have 95 grain projectiles. But it's also 105 feet per second less than our 9x19. And remember, our 9x19 achieves that greater velocity with a bullet that weighs 20 grains more. So we see, same story, 9x19 is a lot more powerful than 380 or 9x18, and our 9x18 ballistics are a whole lot closer to 380 than they are 9x19. But again, this isn't a perfect comparison. What about our Hornady critical defense ammunition? That's something that I would say should be a really good comparison. Let's take a look at that chart. With our Hornady critical defense ammunition, I crunched the numbers and here they are. We have our calibers, our mean velocities, projectile weights, energy foot-pounds. Now with our 380 ACP, our 9x17, we've got a mean velocity of 954. With our 9x19, 1,092. That's 142 feet per second more. Also remember the 380 achieves that with a 90 grain projectile while the 9x19 has a 115 grain projectile. So it's 142 feet per second more and achieves that with a bullet that's 25 grains heavier. 9x19 is a lot more powerful than 380. But how do those compare to our 9x18? Well, here we got 899 feet per second. That's 55 feet per second less than our 380. But to be fair, remember our 380 is a 90 grain, our 9x19 is a 96 grain projectile. So less velocity, but more mass. How do those compare in terms of energy foot-pounds? Well, if I did my math right, for our 380, we have 181. For our 9x18, 172. 9 pounds less. That's a difference that's negligible. But how does that compare to our 9x19? We have 304 energy foot-pounds. That's 123 pounds more than our 380. So again, 9x19 is a lot more powerful than 380. And although the numbers on this chart are different than the numbers on the previous chart, they still tell the same story, which is 9x19 is a lot more powerful than 380 ACP or 9x17, and 9x18 ballistics are a lot closer to 380 than they are 9x19, and in some cases, not as impressive as 380. But as I've said so many times, all of these are just numbers on a page. How does this translate into effectiveness on the intended target? Let's see if we can put that to the test. So to test the effectiveness of our various ammunitions, we're going to use something we call the meat target. For those who haven't seen it before, the meat target is leather couch skin, followed by pork steak pectorals, pork ribs, a bag of oranges to simulate lung tissue, more pork ribs on the back, 4 layers of t-shirt on the front, 4 layers on the back, and the whole thing followed by the new and improved high-tech fleece bullet stop. And I'm going to shoot from a distance of 7 yards, and we'll start with the Baby Rock, which is loaded with our Hornady Critical Defense 380 ACP 90 grain FDX projectile, like a ballistic tip. Well,
Well, I've disassembled the meat target, and we have some fairly good damage to the ribs on the front of the target, and where projectiles hit ribs, shattered them. We also have some fairly good damage to our orange lung tissue. And by the time the projectiles get to the ribs on the back of the target, they've lost a lot of velocity, so you don't see as much damage. But in this case, where projectiles hit ribs, ricocheted off of it. Of the 4 projectiles I fired, 3 were stopped by the t-shirt on the back of the target, and 1 made it through to about the 8th layer of fleece. Let's take a look at them.
And here's our 4 projectiles, and the 3 that were stopped by the t-shirt on the back of the target have very good expansion. The one that made it through to the 8th layer of fleece has virtually no deformation, and you see that occasionally with 380 ACP. But for the most part, we get good performance from our Hornady critical defense ammunition.
Now we have a new meat target set up, and I'll shoot this from 7 yards with our Makarov pistol, which I have loaded with our Hornady Critical Defense 9x18 96 grain FTX projectile, like a ballistic tip. And I also have this loaded with our PPU 9x18 95 grain jacketed hollow point. Let's see how these ammunitions do. Well, my apologies, we had a camera snafu, so we didn't get the impacts on camera, but I have the meat target taken apart, and it has some interesting results. Now remember, I was shooting this with our FTX projectiles and our PPU hollow points. Okay, when you look at the ribs on the front of the target, we see some pretty good damage where projectiles hit ribs, shattered them. But as far as our orange lung tissue, don't really see any more damage than we did with the 380. As far as the ribs on the back of the target, we see less damage, and there's some reasons for that. Now I fired 4 of the PPU hollow points, and they all penetrated between the 8th and 12th layer of fleece. And again, there's a reason for that. Let's take a close-up look at these PPU hollow points.
And here's our PPU hollow points. And the reason they had so much penetration is because their expansion and deformation is just about 0. This ammunition, I'm going to say, as hollow points go, is pretty well worthless. And I have to say it. It's called PPU. Perhaps PU would be a better title for it.
Now, as far as the penetration of the 9x18 FTX projectiles, remember with the 380, 3 of them were stopped by the t-shirt on the back of the target. The one that didn't expand went through several layers of fleece. With our 9x18 ammunition, 2 of them were stopped by the t-shirt on the back of the target, and 2 of them were actually stopped in the ribs on the back of the target. Let's take a close-up look at our FTX projectiles.
And here's our Hornady Critical Defense 9x18 FTX projectiles. And you can see that the expansion is very good and very uniform.
So as far as the Hornady Critical Defense ammunition goes, it looks like our 9x18 didn't really do much more damage than our 9x17, and the penetration was in fact perhaps a little bit less. Now we'll put together a new meat target and see how all of these compare to 9x19. Now I have a new meat target set up, and I'll shoot this one from 7 yards with my Smith & Wesson M&P Compact, which I have loaded with Hornady Critical Defense 9x19 with its 115 grain FTX projectile, like a ballistic tip. Well, with our 9x19 Hornady Critical Defense ammunition, we see a lot more damage to the ribs on the front of the target. We also see what I perceive as significantly more damage to our orange lung tissue. Now, when it comes to the ribs on the back of the target, we see what looks like less damage. By the time those projectiles got here, they'd lost a lot of their power. The projectiles went through, but did very little damage, and all of our projectiles were stopped by the t-shirt on the back of the target. But let's take a close-up look at our 9x19 115 grain projectiles.
And here's our projectiles. We see very good expansion. We see a lot of fragmentation. A couple of them lost their jacket. And these projectiles did a lot of damage.
Now, a couple of things to add. In previous presentations, when we've shot the meat target with what I would call no frills or low budget 9x19 ammunition, with 115 grain jacketed hollow points, we typically get satisfactory penetration and expansion. But when using 380 ACP and using just what I would call off-the-shelf or regular ammo, not boutique or hyper ammunition, what has commonly been a problem with 380 ACP is that your jacketed hollow points deliver very poor to non-existent expansion. And we seem to have that same problem with our PPU ammunition caliber 9x18. Its expansion was non-existent. So, based on the ammunitions we were able to test today, it would appear that 9x18 has some of the same problems that 380 ACP does. But when we were shooting our Hornady critical defense ammunition, we saw that 9x19 had good performance. 380 ACP, except for that one round that didn't expand, and that does happen sometimes, 380 ACP delivered what I would call okay performance. But the performance of our 9x18 seemed to be equal to or perhaps less than our 380 ACP. So when we look at our chart, it would appear that ballistically 9x18 doesn't really have any advantage over 9x17. Looking at our meat target again with the ammunitions I was able to test today, it would appear that 9x18 has no advantage over 9x17. And when you look at the guns that are currently available on the market here in the United States that are chambered in caliber 9x18, and you compare that to some of your 380s, like this Ruger LCP, when it comes to concealed carry, it would appear as though caliber 380 ACP is going to give you some significantly better choices. So is there any advantage to a 9x18? Okay, again, here in the United States, there was a time quite a while ago when a lot of foreign military pistols were dumped on the American market. Your Makarovs, your Tokarevs. And they had very low price tags. There was also a lot of foreign-made ammunition in caliber 9x18, and it had a low price tag. And a lot of people bought these guns, and for people who were economically challenged, those guns economically made a lot of sense. But that's been quite a while ago. Today, I'm having trouble finding pistols chambered in 9x18. When I do find them, they seem to be quite expensive. In looking for ammunition for today's presentation, it was difficult to find and very expensive when I did find it. So whatever economic advantage 9x18 may have had at one time, it would appear it does not have that advantage now. So what is the real bottom line to all of this? I would say the bottom line is this. If you already have a pistol chambered in 9x18 and that pistol functions properly and reliably, and you can shoot it accurately and you can handle it safely, then it will work for concealed carry personal protection home defense. But I certainly would not recommend going out and buying a pistol in caliber 9x18. So as always, don't try this at home on what you call a professional, and thanks for watching our 9x18 video.